Hi, friends. Welcome to the Full Heart Podcast. This is another solo episode. I am Rebeka, and I am so glad that you're here. I figured it's only fair that I ask myself the same questions that I ask my guests that come on, because I love hearing people's stories. I love hearing where they came from and how they got to where they are. And one thing I've learned already in just 5 interviews is seeing the theme, seeing that little red string of clues. And it's really simple to see in other people if you just pay attention to them. It's so hard to see in yourself sometimes. And so that's part of my hope in this podcast, is that when you listen to other people's stories, you'll start to be able to see those connections for yourself if you have a hard time doing that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you've noticed it and it's helping you out. It's just fascinating to me because I've been doing a lot of inner child work and really connecting back to my inner child to remember who I am and what I loved and what my natural gifts and talents are. I feel like it got lost in the mix. And we'll talk about that a little more, but I know that so many people resonate with that, especially women my age. And so I'm just going to share what has been coming through for me and just kind of go through, again, the questions that I ask my guests. So the first one I always ask is, tell me about yourself. What was your childhood like? What was little you like? And I know this feels like a big question, but really it's like, we're not trying to dig into every details, right? So when I think about me and like an overview of my childhood, I was born in 81. So I grew up through the 80s and the 90s. Cute little house. My parents were married. They're still married. And I got to live the kind of quintessential 80s childhood where I rode my bike around the neighborhood. I had friends in the neighborhood that I would go see. My school was like a mile-ish away from my house, so I would walk or ride my bike to school a lot in elementary school. And there was a park in the neighborhood that I would go to, like, just going around playing. I loved riding my bike. I loved reading. I loved the Babysitters Club. I loved Beverly Cleary and Judy Blume and Encyclopedia Brown. Those are the ones that really stick out to me, but I really did love reading. And I liked school. I liked the structure of school. I liked learning. I liked reading in 3rd grade. I figured out that, or my teacher praised me for writing, and that kind of sparked some interest in writing. But I also constantly thought I was dumb. Like, I didn't think I was that smart. I didn't think I was that smart until I was back in college as a single mom. So that's an interesting thing. And one thing that when I think back on it, like I'm in the same boat as so many women my age, according to social media. Like, we're eldest daughter, grew up in the 80s and 90s, had straight A's, like we were doing good. We appeared to be fine. So people, like the adults in our life, left us alone. They thought we were good, but inside we were struggling. We were barely able to tread water, let alone swim, and then we reach our 40s and we just don't have the energy to pretend anymore. So things start falling apart. We realize that we're neurodivergent. I started going to a therapist a couple years ago, and she did tell me I'm autistic and ADHD, so the fun little combo of ADHD. And that really helped me a lot to understand myself. And when I look back on my childhood, I kind of laugh now, where it totally makes sense. I remember one time in 1st grade, I had the big box of crayons, like the 64 box of crayons. And whenever I took a crayon out, I would put my finger in the hole where it came from so that I could color, and then I could put the color right back where it belongs. And I remember a kid taking the color out, and he didn't put his finger in to like hold the spot. How is he going to know where to put it back? You can't just put it back all willy-nilly. Like, who does that? I'm in 1st grade. I think back, and that just makes me laugh. And there's a lot of things like that, just the kind of very rigid thinking, where it took a while to understand that things can shift, things can change. Like, it doesn't have to be that one way. There's a lot of stories like that. But finding out about the neurodivergence has genuinely helped me so much to accept myself and to navigate this life in a little different way. one thing I look back on, especially when I think about in terms of success and the theme of this podcast, at least the first season of this podcast, I think back to my relationship with money and my relationship to working. And I always loved money. Like, I started babysitting when I was 12. I was trying to be Christy from the Babysitters Club and start my own business, right? And so I babysat so I could get some money. It's not really that I liked babysitting kids. I didn't. It wasn't about the kids. It was about figuring out money. And I would sit in my closet. I think I talked about this in the last one. My closet right here, and I would count my money. I would hoard my money. I would save it. And I remember this mindset, even with gifts, like anything that I really appreciated, I would just save, and I wouldn't use it. I would put it in a little corner so it could stay safe. Because in my mind, I thought that was keeping it safe. If I loved it and I cherished it, I needed to protect it and like put it in a corner and not use it and not break it and keep it safe. And that's what I did with money too. I remember learning about the parable of the talents in church and how the one dude, if you don't know, real quick, basically a landowner master dude is going out of town. So he gives 3 of his slaves essentially some money. He's like, here, go, which are called talents. He's like, go do stuff with this. Let me know, like when I get back, I want to hear about your story. So one dude goes out and makes some money with it. He somehow invests it and comes back with more. Another dude, I can't exactly remember. I think he lost money, but he did it in a way where he was trying to do something. So it was like, fine. And then the third dude was like, well, I buried it in the ground. And when you came back, I got it up. So here's your money back. And in my mind, I was genuinely thinking, well, yeah, that guy's smart. But I was so confused why the landowner got so mad at that dude. He was so mad because he said that was wasting money. And so it kind of goes into a parable of like, don't waste your talent. But it's so interesting to me because I genuinely for years was so confused. I thought he took care of the money. He buried it. He kept it safe. He didn't risk it like the one crazy guy. He didn't lose it. He didn't do anything wrong. And I can understand better now. Not kind of. I do understand better now the energy of money and how money wants to work and flow. And it's a give and a take. It's an up and down. And nothing in life is static at all. It wants to give. It wants to receive. It wants to be part of the whole energetic process of life. That's life. It's expansion and contraction and more expansion and back and forth and up and down. And everything in life, if you look around, does this process. So it makes sense that hiding and hoarding isn't actually giving life to this thing, isn't actually honoring this thing. But it did take me a long time to realize that. So I just feel like that's an important aspect of my mindset, because it wasn't until 2020 when I started really investing in myself and I thought, okay, I've got to get into this. Like, I've been hiding my money, hoarding my money. I've been so scared. I've been a single mom and just trying to make sure that I have what I need. But in 2020, I finally thought, I'm going to invest in myself, and I'm going to invest in coaches and programs that will help me progress forward. And we'll dig into how that worked out at another time. But it's just so fascinating to me to think about how it's all worked out. And so when I go back to my 12-year-old self, hoarding that money, and even at 15, I worked at Target, and then I worked at a local bakery. I worked at the Smoothie King. Like, I was basically working from the time I was 15 until I had my kid at 23. He was born a couple weeks before I turned 23. So I was very much wanting to work and to be involved and to do what I needed to do to make money, because I wanted to make money, and I would budget the money. I really loved making spreadsheets. I would write out, every time I got a paycheck, I would write out how I'm going to spend it, how is it going to allocate, like basically the Dave Ramsey envelope system before Dave Ramsey was talking about it. I was doing that. And so I was really, really into it. And the first kind of break in my relationship with money was when I became a stay-at-home mom, because it was weird. Like, I stopped working, I stopped going to school, And we knew that my kid's dad, he was going to finish school and he was going to go straight into the Air Force because he was in the ROTC. And at the time, we were heavily involved in the church. And the main message I remember getting was that I needed to stay home with my kid because you don't want a stranger raising your kid. And there's just all these stories. And plus, school was really overwhelming. My kid was born on Thursday, school started on Monday. Needless to say, I missed that first week. And so I just always felt like I was catching up. I couldn't really keep track of things. I couldn't do my homework. Like, if anybody has ever had a baby, you know how your brain is working the first few weeks or months, and it wasn't it wasn't flowing. I didn't know how I was going to finish my last year with postpartum brain. And since he was guaranteed a job, we're like, okay, I'll stay home and it'll be fine. And then we get into the Air Force and he starts making money. And so we're spending a little more, and it was really hard for me to keep up. Like, I remember looking at our bank statements because I would like to put it in categories and just figure out where we're spending and what's going on, right? But it was hard to keep up because all of a sudden we had debit cards. Like, debit cards were new. And he was spending more money. He's a pilot, so he would go out, like, they would fly on an out and back and go have lunch in another city, and then come back. And I couldn't really keep up. So I just thought, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Like, he has a job. We have plenty of money. So what does it matter? It's fine. And he kind of took over. But then when we got divorced, I got back into it. There was just a lot of back and forth. Like, there was some good time that I had with money because he was also still financially supporting me while I was finishing school. So I didn't feel as nervous about it. And then I managed to get a job that was holding things up. So between my job after graduation, between my job and child support, I was good. I could budget. I could do what I needed to do. I was able to take my kids on vacation. We went to some concerts. Like, we could actually live. It was great. And I met another guy and got married again. And that destroyed me, honestly, because it turned out that he was really bad with money. I didn't totally know. That's a whole other story. So after that second divorce, it just kind of crushed me because I was judging myself a lot. Felt I just felt really disconnected from myself and my intuition. And I had just moved back home and I didn't really have a steady job yet. And so I was just really trusting that if I take these steps, I was trying to become a teacher. If I took these steps, it would all work out. And it just kept not working out. And in 2020, again, I met a life coach. It was when everybody was online because we were all at home. And life coaching kind of boomed up. And I found this guy on social media, and he had a program that sounded really great, and it was life-changing, and I do not regret investing in myself through his program at all. I think it was great. What I do regret is after that, I was feeling really good about myself, and I had some time home. So pretty classic COVID story where I had some time home and I started realizing, like, maybe I can build a life for myself online as well. Because being a single mom, and at the time I was a coach at the junior high, so working full-time there, and then I was coaching basketball and track, and I was coaching CrossFit. So I would wake up, like, especially during basketball season, I would be at the CrossFit box at like 4:30 in the morning. I would do my CrossFit workout by myself. It would overlap a little bit with the 5 a.m. class, which usually I was at the 5 a.m. class, but this is during basketball season because then I have to be at basketball practice at 6 a.m. So we're coaching the kids, and then school starts at 8, and then it's over at 4, and then my kids in basketball, and then we had other stuff. Like, I was exhausted and working all the time and doing all the things. And so when COVID hit and I could finally rest, I thought this would be nice if I could actually have some time to process. And so I invested in a couple other coaches and programs, and my thinking was, this will be a return on investment. If I invest in these great coaches, they'll help me build a business, and then that's going to help me build revenue, and so it'll be fine. But it ended up not being fine. And so then I fell into further judgment of myself. because I felt so guilty for spending the money on those coaches and that they turned it out to be toxic or just not effective at all. I felt like I had taken money from my kids by doing that. I had ruined their life somehow because I had money in the bank and now I didn't. And I overshot just a little bit. Like I thought I was keeping track of my money, but I remember seeing one payment and that's what spiraled on my credit card. And I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was done paying that coach. And I looked at the calculations and realized I miscalculated. And so then I just fell into a judgment spiral. And I couldn't do any coaching anymore because I just felt like this industry is so toxic. And that kind of progressed into basically 4 years of just deeper survival, just trying to figure it out because working at the school was exhausting. I was substituting during the day, and so I could stay home when I had clients, but I could go sub whenever I didn't, or I could do work while I was subbing and just kind of doing all the things. And I have realized since I've been able to rest these past couple months as an empty nester living at my best friend's house, I've just come to realize like that it is not sustainable for me to go and to be busy and to be constantly showing up to try to bring in clients and then to show up for those clients. And like, I do not have the energy for that. I'm not wired for that. And when you listen to my episode with Maureen, which I hope you do, she has a program called Soul Star Mapping. And I was putting my human design and astrology into that because it helps you to really understand yourself through your human design and astrology. And it was coming back explaining certain aspects of my chart and who I am. And it was reiterating back to me, you're not here for hustle at all. Like you're here to sit in a quiet place and to kind of process what you know and then share what you know. And I was like, that's all I've been trying to do for forever. But that's not really sustainable as a single mom. And I kept trying to find ways to just rest for a minute. Like, can somebody just give me like a month to just sleep and to just think? And so that I can figure out the next step. But if you keep asking me to show up every day and produce every day and give and like do everything that capitalism and the patriarchy wants you to do is for in a system that's set up for either one single person or a married family. And like these days, both parents have to work in order to survive. There's no longer any availability for single income thriving at all. So I just didn't get that time. So now that I'm rested and I'm grateful and thankful and blessed enough to have this time to just really process and to step back and to think, my goal for this next year is to really dig into that restfulness and to really dig into myself and to listen to myself and to trust myself, to regain that self-trust so that I can build a long-term financial stability through some kind of career that actually matches my energetics, not one that's going to completely exhaust me and wear me out immediately. Being in a cubicle in a windowless room with 50 other people is not sustainable for me. That it overwhelms my system immediately. And then you want me to be there for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week? I can't. I just can't. So I haven't been able to figure out where I belong, but I know that I will be figuring it out this year because I trust myself and because I know that that's where it's leading. So when I think about success, when I think about my past versions of myself for success, I think about how much it's changed over the years. Where when I was a kid, success meant keeping a lot of money, having some kind of job and getting money. And when I was a young mom, success meant getting my kids down at nap time on time. And then as a single mom, success for me meant that I actually get time with my kids. Like I was thinking long term as a single mom. I looked at family dynamics. I've read books. I looked at all these things to think, I want my kids to grow up to be as healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically as possible. I want them to be 18 and leaving the house and know themselves as deeply as an 18-year-old can, to be able to trust themselves, to have that self-knowledge and that self-trust when they walk out of my door and go over to college. Because of the patterns that I had in myself and the patterns that their dad had. I mean, we were high school sweethearts. I've known him since we were 15. My best friend that I've been living with, she actually had a crush on him in 7th grade, well before I even really knew who he was. So he's been in my life for a long time. And I can see these patterns of what was happening between me and my family and him and his family. And so I thought, okay, we're gonna stop this. And so for me, success meant showing up as a mom as much as possible, to be a stabilizer, like doing whatever I need to do to stabilize their life as much as possible. So that meant keeping things calm and cool with their dad, and trying to keep one place, like living in one place for as long as possible so they can make friends and establish routines and just all this stuff, right? And so that's what success meant. And now that they're both in college and out of the house, I do feel successful in that endeavor. And so now we're moving into them being young adults, and it's so fun watching them grow. And so now I get to shift my version of success. And what's really hitting me is that I do feel successful as a mom, but I don't feel successful in finances or career. And I could never figure out how to do both things. And so that's a huge part of this curiosity quest in this podcast, and what I've been really researching for myself the past few years. It's like, how do people do both things? How does someone be a mom and build a career? Do people, like, are they able to do both things and feel satisfied with both of them? Like, feel like they're doing what they actually want in both things? Or is one area being sacrificed for the other? Is there a common theme? Like, what happens with other people? Also, what support systems are in place? Who is helping you? Because as a single mom, like, there was a time where I was a full-time single mom. I lived in Little Rock, Arkansas by myself with the kids. Their dad lived in Shreveport, Louisiana. My family was in Houston, Texas. So I was by myself, and I was finishing my college degree, and I was entering grad school. You know, at one point it was just me and the kids, and I was in grad school. I was a grad assistant. I was working a part-time job, and I had them full-time. And so it was a lot. And I moved back home in part to have the support, and I don't know, I'm also not really great at asking for help because I'm just so busy focused on keeping things afloat. It's hard to ask. Like, I don't really know how to ask because I don't really know how to verbalize what I need, right? And so anyway, there's a lot of layers to it. But I know that there's no way that if I'm by myself raising my kids, that I could be both the mom that I want to be and the money person that I want to be, right? Like the employee, the career person. It wasn't, I didn't understand how to do both because my energy is only so much, you know, and then I also have to work out so that I can be mentally sane. Like, my working out wasn't necessarily for my body. Like, it was nice that it made me skinny and strong. I'm not going to say skinny. It made me fit and strong. But it was 98% mental. It was to keep me sane, because otherwise I would spiral into depression and anxiety and all kinds of things. So I have to take care of myself mentally, emotionally, and physically so that I can show up for my kids. And then how does that lead to career? Like, there's just, how do I have the energy for all the things? It was really hard to figure out. And so now I'm so grateful that my kids are in a safe place. They are thriving in their environments, and they are good. And so now I can go explore a little bit more. I can go figure things out for myself, because it's time. And like, that, it's time for me now to establish things for myself and to have the time to build the career and the money habits that I want. So I'm not sure if I got off track here, but that kind of was like my history that led into what I'm doing now, which is basically what I ask people with history and then how that compares to now. And so, like I said before, It's interesting to look at other people's lives or to listen to other people's lives and to see how certain traumas they had as a kid are really impacting what they're doing now and how much they relate. And so it helps me because I get kind of stuck in my traumas, right? Like a girl growing up in the 80s, undiagnosed. Everybody thinks she's fine, so they just ignore her. And then I end up married, like, it was the height of evangelical times, right? Like, if you were around in the 90s, you know. So I get engaged 2 weeks after high school, and I'm married at 20. I'm a mom by 23. I'm a mom again at 25. And just all these things are happening. And then by 28, we're separated. We're trying to figure out what's going on. And then by 32, I am divorced with no college education and no work experience. What am I going to do? So I had to finish school as a full-time single mom so that I could have a chance to get a job. And then it turns out I get a job and it completely exhausts me. Like, it's just too much, and it's weird to leave the kids, and then my boss tells me I'm taking too much time off when all I'm doing is trying to take my kids to the doctor, or maybe they get sick, or I wasn't even going to the doctor myself. This is when I stopped going to the doctor because I had to choose how I was going to use my vacation time. This is the other thing that I hate. Like, I had to use up vacation so that I could take my kids to the doctor, and I was the only one that could take them. If they need to go, I have to take them. My kid was starting orthodontia work because his teeth really needed it really early. And he had ear problems too. So he had to have ear surgery, he had to have tubes put in his ears. He had to have surgery on his teeth quite a few times. He had to have orthodontist, which is like a monthly visit. And then there's just the yearly checkups, and then if they get sick. And so I had to use my vacation time for that. And so I had to think about that. And so I didn't want to use up extra time for me because I had to save it in case my kids need it. And then if I actually want to take them somewhere, because I was really excited that I had money enough to take them somewhere on a trip. And so if I actually want to use vacation time for vacation, then I needed to save it. So there's just a whole bunch in the system that really, really doesn't work for anybody, if we're being honest. But it absolutely does not work for the single parent or for a full-time caregiver. Like, there's no way to do both things. You don't get support. And it's exhausting. So I'm not totally sure how this all relates to what I'm doing now, except that I'm finally stepping back and I'm doing what I really want to do, which is interview people, process information. In the long run, I would love to turn all of this into a book. I just want to research and write and teach on that. That's all I want to do. That's what I've been saying for years. But I didn't know how to do that outside of getting a PhD. And again, getting a PhD as a single mom, like doing it anyway. So here we are. Thank the universe, God, goddess for the internet, where I can do what I want. We can all figure stuff out. So I can put a call out online and ask to talk to successful women and be able to interview successful women. Like, I want to use this research to help myself and everybody listening to it. I want to be able to integrate this data into a book. I want to write a book, which I'll have to talk about in another episode, because this book literally woke me up in the middle of the night one night a couple years ago, basically fully formed. And so it's been slowly percolating since then. And then I want to talk about it. I want to be like a public speaker. I've realized I'm not built for client work all the time. I'm just not. I'm more here to process information, to sit with information, to read, to integrate, and to communicate. And that's it, and that's all I want to do. And that's hard to fit into corporate America. Like, where does that fit into corporate America while trying to raise kids? So I'm really grateful to have this time and to be able to integrate. And really, really, when I think back to little me, like, that's what I was doing back then too. Like I said, I loved school. I loved reading. My third grade teacher encouraged me in writing. And when I was in college as a full-time single mom, that's when I figured out I was smart, because I got a letter saying I was on the dean's list. I had good grades. And I was like, wait, if I can do really well in college under this kind of stress, then what was I thinking in school? Like, I guess I was smart. I just was comparing myself and judging myself. I was always so hard on myself, so hard on myself. So now I get to practice self-love and self-compassion and self-forgiveness and just self-trust and really listening. And this is why human design and astrology has been so huge for me, to just really give me full permission to be who I am, instead of thinking that I have to be something else in order to fit into this whole system, which is what I've been doing my whole life, which is why I was so depressed for so long. It makes sense. It makes sense. And so now all I want to do is give people permission to be themselves, because again, that goes back to my whole mission inside of this business and this podcast, which you're going to hear in every episode. And again, I don't care, because I feel like this is an important mission, especially in the times we have right now. It's for you to love yourself more. Everything I'm doing is something that I'm curious about, and something that's going to lead me to love myself more, to understand myself more. And so by default, it's going to do the same thing for you. And that's what I really want to do, is to spread that love and that information and that ability and that choice to love yourself. Because when you are loving yourself, truly loving yourself, then you are showing up differently. You're using words differently. You're communicating differently. The people that you attract in your life are different. The way that you show up for work is different. Like, everything changes because you love yourself. And the huge thing that happens is that it gives the people around you permission to love themselves, because love is attractive. Love is a force. Love is beautiful. And so when you show up in it, it just amplifies in other people. And with all this talk that we have about divisiveness and all kinds of nonsense, we need more love messages more than ever. And even Jesus, I keep going back to the main commandment that he said, to love the Lord your guard, to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. All other commandments rest on these. And you cannot love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. So if you're hating on your neighbor, you're hating on yourself. That's what's happening. So everything comes back to loving yourself first. Everything. That's a whole other talk I could give. So that's my main mission here. And I can see a little more now how the trauma in my childhood was that I didn't feel seen. I just didn't feel seen at all. I didn't feel like I could be myself. I felt like if I was myself, then I don't know, the world would explode, I guess. Something horrible would happen, because who I am was fundamentally broken and wrong and stupid. And so I needed to change everything to fit into the system. And now I can see just how broken that system is and just how broken that mindset is. And because I've been through it so much, I'm able to guide people out of it, because I've had to guide myself out of it. And I can see how the main force in that is love. So that was healing, to make that little connection for myself. So thank you for listening to this whole process. I think my solo episodes are just going to be me kind of processing, working through stuff. And also, I might have some like reaction episodes to different interviews, because honestly, at this moment, it's Sunday, January 4th. I have interviewed 5 women already. They've each been amazing interviews. I have a couple more lined up. I'm really looking forward to sharing all of these stories with you and sharing these women with you. I'm so grateful for the women who have volunteered to be part of this experiment and this podcast. It's just so beautiful and so lovely. And I'm really grateful. Okay, the last 2 questions that I ask everybody, I'll just go ahead and think about it real quick, is what does success mean to you? And so right now, in this moment of my life, success means peace. Success is that I don't have to wake up to an alarm. Success is that I'm leaving in 3 days to go live for 3 months in Pennsylvania, rent-free, because I'm house sitting. Success is being me. And that's pretty cool. And And I love that I get to change my definition of success when it's time to change it. And I can honor the past versions of me that had different definitions of success. My final question for everybody is, what fills your heart with love? Because as I just mentioned, my purpose in here is to help everybody to fill their heart with love. And for me, right now, I've just spent a couple weeks here at my parents' house in my old bedroom with my kids. My kids have been here, and being with them is always so heart feeling. Being home, I have, like, the town I have mixed feelings about, but it does give me a sense of just home, which is really nice. But the main thing that fills my heart with love right now is just really this freedom of this life transition that I'm in, of being able to be a nomad and to take care of myself. And the past 3 months living with my best friend has definitely filled my heart with so much love. Definitely. She changed my life by providing me space and just letting me be. She taught me how important that is. So yeah, I feel like that was a wonky answer, but I'm just not going to judge it. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this process. I invite you to ask any questions, share any insights, any of that. I love a good question. Oftentimes people think of something that I never would have. And so one simple question can lead me on a quest, provide a lot of goodness. Ask me any questions in the comments, and I'd be happy to explore with you. All right. I love y'all. Until next time.